A megalopolis is defined as a very large, heavily populated urban complex, meaning an area involving two or more cities that are interconnected. We know this term applies to regions like the Northeast from Boston to Washington, or even Florida from Miami to Jacksonville to Orlando to Tampa and Gainesville and everything else in this urban monstrosity. But what if we change this a bit? You can take away the very long, heavily populated part and just look at the urban complex. Then shrink that down to a smaller metro area like Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. There's two or more municipalities, and I'd argue a strong inter-municipal relationship. This would be a mini megalopolis. I'll explain it a bit more, but today we're going to look at some examples of these bad boys around the country with their population and culture facts. Before we get into that though, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's a really easy and helpful way for you to help out my channel. Then comment down below any mini megalopolises that you think deserve to be mentioned. Thank you. So I fully made this term up. This is the first time you're ever hearing of this, which means we get to make a definition. So let's use the example of Northwest Arkansas, which I think applies to the term. A mini megalopolis has nothing to do with the actual population, as we see by this metro having only around 338,000 residents. There's nothing mega about that, but what does matter is two things: the continuity of the population and the intermunicipal relationship, whether that be economic or transportationally or whatever. Mini megalopolises still have that relatively continuous population, though I will bend this a little bit, and then they also need to have a relationship with each other. I think people in Bentonville feel fairly connected to those in Fayetteville, so that's what I mean by this. Got it? Okay, let's get into our examples. Starting with the Yakima Valley in Washington, one of the most underappreciated regions in the entire U.S. This whole interior part of Washington is an incredibly unique geographic area climate-wise, topographically, and agriculturally, and this mini megalopolis is the regional center of it. It starts in the Tri-Cities along the Columbia River, the largest metro in the region, up at 319,000 residents. This includes Kennewick, Richland, and Pasco, which are all growing relatively steadily. You then move down the Yakima River past Benton City, Grandview, Sunnyside, Toppenish, and into Yakima, the second largest city in the mini megalopolis at 258,000 residents. Before we get into more population data though, let's talk about this area on the ground. It is especially interesting agriculturally, producing over 75% of America's hops, which are used in several beers. The Yakima Valley is also designated as an American viticultural zone, one of the only things that groups these cities together, so I originally thought maybe someone stole my mini megalopolis thing, but no, this simply refers to an important wine producing region. And this would be accurate, as it helps produce 40% of Washington's wine. Moving into population data, the Yakima Valley mini megalopolis has a population of approximately 563,000 and benefits off of what is called string of pearls development, where cities are located in a line along a major highway, continuing relative development because of that. The major highway in this case is I-82, which is integral for continuing what I guess you would call the suburban fabric. These middle communities like Sunnyside are growing steadily, with that city gaining 17.7% since 2000. But the fastest growing would be the suburb of West Richland, which has doubled in population since 2000. I could argue continued development from Tri-Cities through Benton City to around Grandview, but I think the biggest question would be between Granger and Union Gap. Next, we have maybe the best example of this mini megalopolis concept, which is Wisconsin's Fox Valley, a mid-sized area with relatively continuous development. It starts with its largest metro, Green Bay, which has 334,000 residents. It then moves to Appleton, also known as the Fox Cities, which have 248,000 residents, and does very well continuing our development. There's then Oshkosh, which has 173,000, and Fond du Lac at 104,000. Culturally and economically, the area is a cheap place to live and has an important paper industry with several mills along the Fox River. Population and continuity is where I think this one gets especially interesting. There's three regions to cover: the area in between De Pere and Kaukauna, then Neenah and Oshkosh, and then Oshkosh and North Fond du Lac. Interstate 41 follows this entire corridor, and we know interstates are good at continuing development because of the constant exits. This first one is really starting to connect, as there's only around 6 miles in between De Pere, and it is growing very quickly. Random mention here, the village of Wrightstown is important in this case, as it continues the development. Interstate 41 is important here as it's being expanded to 3 lanes on each side as we speak, which will add even more demand to the highway and in turn grow these areas. Next, Neenah and Oshkosh are really connecting. In fact, Neenah is literally included in Oshkosh Metropolitan Statistical Area. This one's filled, especially along the lakeshore. Oshkosh and Fond du Lac is where it definitely ends, though. This isn't continuous development, so it's more of a simple cultural connection until this area suburbanizes, which won't be anytime soon. Lastly, I find the airports fascinating because Green Bay and Appleton both have international airports rather than working together on one. Oshkosh then has a regional airport, but it hosts EAA, an extremely popular aircraft festival, so that's all an interesting aspect of it. Finally, the area has a population of 651,000 and is growing steadily, especially Green Bay and Appleton. Next, we move to an interesting one since it's our only one shrinking in population, and that's the Tri-Cities in Michigan. When you're thinking about cities in Michigan, these probably aren't what comes to mind. But it first includes Saginaw, which has a population of 187,000 and is shrinking. Bay City is next, also shrinking, and it has 102,000 residents. Finally, Midland has 84,000 residents, and it gained 600 in the last 4 years. Incredible stuff. I put out a poll on my channel for which one of these you'd most want to live in, and Bay City was by far the highest answer, but Midland is actually a bit richer and better off economically than the other two. I also find it interesting, piggybacking off the Fox Cities, that the Tri-Cities have the MBS International Airport. That's standing for Midland, Bay City, Saginaw. See, they know how to work together. Take notes, Fox Valley. Population-wise, yet again we look back at highways, as they nearly have a triangle of freeways. I-75 goes between Saginaw and Bay City, then US 10 goes between Bay City and Midland. State Route 47 is only a freeway for a bit, but it properly connects Saginaw and Midland. I think I need to mention I-75's run where it goes through Bay City, Saginaw, Flint, Detroit, Toledo, and then Dayton. That's really something. Anyway, back to what matters. These neighborhoods here do connect Bay City and Saginaw, then along the Tittabawassee River there's development, and honestly there's not much emptiness between Midland and Bay City either, so I'll stand by these three being connected by continuous development. I'll leave my Midwest bias alone now and move to Texas for the Midland-Odessa Big Spring mini megalopolis, which I think you can call the Permian Basin mini megalopolis if you want to. Let me know if there's a better name. It starts in Odessa, which has a population of 170,000, then Midland, which is similarly sized at 188,000, then Big Spring, which doesn't even get its own MSA, so the city's population is 26,000, but that feels disrespectful. The total population then is 301,000. The area is obviously known for its oil market, with most infrastructure being related to that. It's a dry climate, and the cities may seem a bit boring, but look at what the rural areas near them look like. Yes, that's all oil pump jacks. Now, getting into the population stuff, Midland and Odessa are clearly connected, with a clear industrial zone between them here. Midland and Big Spring would be the big argument. But what helps us again? An interstate, this time I-20. In Texas, we know about frontage roads, which make it really easy to continue development right along the road. Looking at this area up until Stanton, there's like a bit of development, so an argument could be made. I'll give up though, because the 13 miles from Stanton to Big Spring is definitely empty. So I guess this one isn't fully real, but there are cultural and economic ties. We found some important facts today. Mini megalopolises can be any size. I mean, I made the argument for Ishpeming to Marquette, Michigan, and I got made fun of, but I think it applies. Highways are especially important for continuing this slight development, so keep that in mind. But comment down below what other megalopolises you see around the country. Thanks for watching.